Welcome to Cinematic Recaps. This movie is called Amsterdam. The movie is in the 1930s where three close friends witness a murder, are falsely accused of the crime, and eventually discover one of the most outlandish plots in the history of the United States. Sit back and enjoy to see what happens. New York City, 1933. Unlicensed surgeon and Dr. Bert Berenson treats wounds sustained by World War I veterans. He suffered an injury while serving in France, and now he has a glass eye. After work, Bert goes to a morgue to see Harold Woodsman, a fellow veteran and best buddy. They are a lady by the name of Elizabeth Liz Meekins, whose father Bill was the previous commander of the soldiers. The gang gathers around Bill's body in a box along with another veteran, Milton King, because Liz wants Bert to conduct the autopsy. Liz thinks her father was murdered as well. The men then make an effort to covertly remove Bill's body from the area. Irma St. Clair, a medical examiner who Bert finds attractive, meets the men. Together, they do Bill's autopsy and find an odd fluid in his organs, which leads them to believe that Bill was poisoned. As Liz had requested, Bert and Harold head to a restaurant to meet her, but they catch her trying to leave discreetly. To attempt and inform her about the poison in her father's body, the two pursue her and eventually catch up with her. When Liz tries to explain to the men that she believes Bill saw something he shouldn't have, an assassin named Darreen Milfax puts Liz in front of a car, which then runs her over. Liz is noticeably nervous. Bert and Harold flee the scene and board a bus to escape as Milfax shouts to the audience that they pushed her. Bert then goes back in time to 1918, when he was persuaded to serve in the war by his bride Beatrice Vanden Heuvel and her well-to-do family because he believed it would improve his reputation. Bert travels to France and meets Harold, Milton, and Bill, whom the soldiers thought was a capable commander. Bert loses an eye as Harold sustains wounds. The two come across Valerie, a nurse who looks after them and seems to like Harold just as much. She makes friends with Bert and Harold when they create a little riot in the medical facility. Valerie explains to the lads how she incorporates army shrapnel into her artwork. The group decides to travel to Amsterdam. Paul Canterbury and Henry Norcross, two MI6 and U.S. Naval Intelligence agents who collaborate to produce and market glass eyes, including the one Bert will use, are introduced to the men by Valerie. The three then settle into a rundown apartment and spend their time partying, having a good time, and working to aid other veterans. Harold and Valerie object, but Bert decides he wants to return to New York to be with Beatrice. When Bert gets home, Beatrice's father bans him from the medical profession for working while injured and tells her to avoid Beatrice. Bert starts training illegally as a result, and he also makes his own painkillers to treat his injuries' pain. Harold and Valerie must break up in Amsterdam because Harold wants to keep aiding veterans and they are aware that their interracial relationship will be frowned upon in the United States. Bert and Harold hide in Beatrice's house right now. Before Harold brings up the fact that he overheard Liz reference a Mr. Rose before she was killed, she and Bert are discussing their failed romance. The Vos family is wealthy and powerful, and they might have had a tie to the Meekins family, so Beatrice corrects him and claims that she must have said Vos. Detectives Getwiller and Hiltz, who are looking into Liz's murder and have Bert and Harold on their radar after being pointed out, then pay the three a visit. Bert suggests that the investigators meet with the Vos family for a lead into Bill's disappearance in order to persuade them to get off their backs. As they leave the house, Milfax and his companion pass by them and threaten them by bringing up the Committee of the Five. Tom Vos agrees to meet with Bert and Harold. They get to know his neurotic wife Libby, and when Valerie sees the men again for the first time in 15 years, they discover that Valerie is Tom's sister. Additionally, Valerie seems to have a genetic nerve condition. She reveals the truth about her past to Bert and Harold in private. When Tom eventually arrives and meets the men, they advise him to speak to General Gil Dillenbeck to vouch for them because he knew Bill well and knows who might have been traveling with him who might have been involved in his murder. Getwiller and Hilt stop by while Bert waits to speak with Dillenbeck. The former needs care for a combat wound of his own. Irma, who was assaulted and had her arm broken by thugs who stole Bill's autopsy results from her, then meets Bert. They kiss when Bert puts her arm back in its proper position. Beatrice then arrives to discuss the current situation with Bert and offers her father's help in getting Bert his medical license back. The detectives are then informed by Irma of the details included in the autopsy reports. Bert meets with Valerie, Harold, and Milton at an office after she directs him there. To meet with Paul and Henry, the group travels to a hotel. They are shown by Valerie and Harold that they saw Milfax and pursued him to a shady clinic where individuals were being forcibly sterilized. They learned about the Committee of the Five after they engaged in a physical altercation with Milfax and another man. Paul claims that there is a connection between this clinic and a conspiracy with intentions to rule the world, a cabal that funds similar facilities in Germany. In order to assist bring down this organization, Henry then instructs the group to secure Dillenbeck's appearance as a guest speaker at an upcoming gala. Next, the group visits Dillenbeck at home to have a conversation. He reveals that he spoke with Bill just before his passing, and that during that conversation, Bill disclosed to Dillenbeck what he had seen as being appalling. Dillenbeck also claims that the Committee of the Five has been paying him money in an effort to win him around to their cause. In an effort to screen out the bad ones, Bert asks Dillenbeck to speak at the gala. When the donor, Maguire, arrives, he asks Dillenbeck to support their cause because they want to depose Franklin D. Roosevelt and take control. Then Dillenbeck consents to speak at the gala. The group meets Tom and Libby, the latter of whom is not so secretly fascinated with Dillenbeck. Tom assists in clearing Bert and Harold's names in the eyes of the law. Dillenbeck meets many members of the Committee of the Five the evening of the gala, who offer him a speech they want him to read. Beatrice and her family arrive in the hopes of meeting Dillenbeck, but Bert chooses to permanently cut relations with them. Dillenbeck utilizes his own words as he stands to speak. In his effort to be killed, Milfax is stopped by Valerie and Harold, who knock him off a ledge and onto the stage, where he is then taken into custody. As it is revealed that Tom is one of the Committee of the Five's leaders and that they are obsessed with fascist leaders like Mussolini and Hitler, and that their ultimate goal is to turn the United States into a fascist country, the trio meets with the detectives in a private room along with Tom and Libby. Bill was killed because he rebelled against them. Tom had been manipulating with Valerie's medication to make her develop the nerve condition. It is also discovered. Tom and Libby are removed from the scene by the police, despite Valerie's fantasies of shooting them in the face. Tom and the other members of the committee were briefly detained, according to Bert, but they were released with no further consequences for their acts and continued to disparage Dillenbeck. The general confronts them in Congress and then goes back home to live in peace. In order for their romance to continue unnoticed, Harold and Valerie leave the nation. Bert then makes an effort to get close to Irma. In his closing remarks, he muses about love, the type that Valerie and Harold share, as well as the affection he feels for them as his friends. And this is the end of this movie. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for weekly updates of movie recaps like this. Comment what movie you want next. Thanks for watching.